All right, let's talk about something that's basically everywhere now, generative AI. We're all using it, right? For writing emails, brainstorming ideas, you name it. But as it gets woven into our lives, this massive question starts to pop up. What is it actually doing to the way we think? Is this incredible new technology a tool that's sharpening our minds, or is it becoming a comfortable crutch that's actually making us a little bit duller?
This isn't some brand new fear. Frank Herbert was writing about this way back in 1965 in Dune. And this quote, it just perfectly frames the debate we're having today. This idea that handing over our thinking process, even for a good reason, might have consequences we didn't see coming. That's exactly the tension we're going to dig into.
So let's just put the core question out there, nice and simple. When you open up that chatbot, are you grabbing a tool that extends what your brain can do, kind of like a calculator but for words and ideas? Or are you leaning on a crutch that might, over time, let your own cognitive muscles get a little weaker? That's what the latest research is trying to get to the bottom of.
First off, we have to admit it. These tools feel absolutely incredible to use. They make hard, brain-draining work feel, well, effortless. But is that the whole story? Or is there something else going on under the surface? Let's see what the data actually says.
Okay, so our first piece of the puzzle comes from a really important survey of 319 knowledge workers. We're talking about people just like us, who literally think for a living. Researchers got into the nitty-gritty of how they're using generative AI in their real day-to-day jobs.
And the results? Whoa, they were pretty clear. A huge majority of people said that AI makes the heavy lifting of thinking feel way easier. I mean, look at this. 79%, almost 8 out of 10, said comprehension tasks took less effort. 72% for knowledge tasks. Even the really tough stuff, like evaluating ideas, felt easier for more than half of them. So that feeling is real. AI does seem to reduce the strain of thinking. But, and this is a big but, this is where it starts to get complicated.
It turns out that wonderful feeling of effortlessness can actually hide a trap. The very thing that makes AI so amazing, its smooth, confident help, might also be the thing that lulls our own critical judgment to sleep.
And this reveals something fascinating, a total paradox. The survey found that when people were confident in their own skills for a task, they actually used more critical thinking when they brought in AI. They used it like a sparring partner, to poke holes in their own ideas and make them better. But when their confidence was in the AI itself, the complete opposite happened. They engaged in less critical thinking. The more they trusted the machine, the less they trusted themselves to double-check its work. This kind of over-reliance leads to a phenomenon that researchers have a pretty cool name for: mechanized convergence. Now, I know it sounds like a fancy term, but it's a simple and, honestly, a kind of worrying idea. It means that when we all start leaning on the same AI tool for the same kinds of tasks, our answers, our ideas, our writing, it all starts to look the same. Our work becomes less diverse, less personal, and it all converges on whatever path the AI prefers. Now, this isn't just some abstract theory, no way. Researchers actually put this idea to the test in a controlled experiment with a group of students to see what would happen, and what they found was pretty eye-opening.
And wow, this slide just shows you that convergence in action. On the left, you've got the essay ideas from students who used AI. On the right, ideas from students who just used a regular search engine. Just look at the difference. The AI group's ideas are all clumped together in just a few big groups. The search engine group, their ideas are all over the place, much more diverse. That is mechanized convergence right there.
The numbers totally back up what we're seeing. Yeah, the AI group technically mentioned more unique things, but look how concentrated they were. They mentioned persons and works of art more than twice as often as the search engine group. It's like they were all fishing from the same small AI-stocked pond, while the other group was out exploring the entire ocean.
So what does all this mean? Is AI just making us less critical thinkers? Well, not exactly. What the research is really suggesting is something a bit more nuanced. Our critical thinking isn't just vanishing, its job is fundamentally changing.
This quote from the study just nails the change perfectly. We're shifting from being the person who executes the task to the person who's in charge of the task. We're becoming stewards.
Let's break that down, because it's a huge deal. Our brain power is shifting. We're spending less time on the grunt work of gathering information and a lot more time verifying the information the AI gives us. We're going from solving the problem from scratch to figuring out how to best integrate the AI's answer. It's a fundamental shift from just doing the work to managing the work, being the editor, the director, and the one who's ultimately responsible for what goes out the door.
And that brings us to the most important part of this whole conversation.
If our role is changing, then how do we get good at this new job? How do we become smart, critical stewards of this amazing technology, instead of just passive button pushers?
Here's the key takeaway. The solution isn't to just ditch AI. That's not happening. The real goal is to stop using it on autopilot. It's about bringing awareness and intention back into the process, to shift from being a passive consumer of AI output to an active director of the tool. The research points to three main things that get in our way. First, there's awareness. We just don't think to question the AI on a task that feels simple or trivial. We assume it knows what it's doing. Second, motivation. Let's be real, we're under pressure, we're in a hurry, and checking the AI's work just feels like an extra step we don't have time for. And third, ability. This one's tough. If we're using AI for something we don't know much about, how can we possibly tell if its answer is good or just garbage?
So the solution, the way forward, is to make a conscious shift in our mindset. You're not just a user anymore. You are the steward. You are the verifier who checks the facts. You are the integrator who weaves the AI's output into your own knowledge. And you are always, always the final judge of quality.
You know, in the end, maybe we've been asking the wrong question all along. Maybe it's not about how smart the AI is. Maybe the true test is how it challenges us to be smarter, more deliberate, and more critical in our own thinking. The real question isn't what the AI can do. It's how will you answer that challenge?